Hey, what's up guys, it's 𝗪cie_𝗰𝗶𝗹. Today we're going to talk about how 2022 went as far as the business, and we're going to talk about the things that I'm working on right now in my business. We're also going to talk about some of the numbers from last year and some of the numbers that I'm going for this year on a monthly basis. So stick around and let's get started. So let's give some background on 2022. Coming into last year in 2021, I was doing mostly books and retail arbitrage. And I was doing all of my own prep, and the biggest month that I'd ever done, I think, was around 16,000 during textbook season. In October and November of 2021, I started doing a little bit of eBay to Amazon and started to use a little bit more leverage in my business, and I ended up doing a $31,000 month in December of 2021. Following up from there though, I ended up getting a virtual assistant to help me source, and I started to work with the prep center, and this really sped things up. So I was doing anywhere between 40 and at my max 100K months in the spring of 2022. I was mostly selling used items, and as the spring went on, my return rate was getting higher and higher because most of the time I was purchasing items and I was having them sent straight to the prep center without testing them. I would basically just take the word of the eBay seller that they tested it and they made sure that the item actually would turn on and work well. And so spring went on, I kept spending a lot on inventory, I kept being pretty leveraged, I was also reinvesting a lot of the profits back into the business. I started to source not just used items that had the cords and all the components, I also started sourcing the items that may just be a printer or may just be the docking station without all of the accessories. And so obviously if you were to purchase an item that didn't have all of the cords necessary in order for it to work, you would probably be pretty frustrated. So from that point, my return rate started to go much higher than it even was before. And as late spring continued, two really big things for my business happened that really slowed me down. The first was that Tiger Lily was the prep center that I was working with, and some of you guys might have heard of Tiger Lily and the whole thing that happened with them. They ended up just having kind of a collapse of their whole employee structure, and a lot of things went wrong for them. And basically they ended up not shipping my stuff out for around 2.5 months. And around the same time, I also started getting several counterfeit claims. A lot of these were most likely customers that received the item, and it was the 1 out of 1,000 person who was just that mad that they ended up sending a counterfeit claim or thought that my items were fake. And so because of the eBay to Amazon model, I did not really have receipts to back these up, and so these really did damage my account health. So between those two things, the Tiger Lily and the account health situation, things really did slow down for me. So in the summer and fall, I tried to make adjustments by really paying attention to the used items that I was selling. I looked at all of my return rates. I was very particular about making sure that all the items had all the cords and all the things that the customer was going to need. And so I tried transitioning to that. And as I tried that, I was hoping that that was going to be a workable situation for me and that I was going to just be able to continue selling used items the way that I wanted to. The way that I wanted to sell used items is to purchase them from eBay and have them sent directly to the prep center. Having to test and prep all of those items would have been a huge pain. There would be an opportunity to run a warehouse or do all your own prep with used items, a very viable business model, but I really do not like prep. And so working with the prep center for the majority of my items is non-negotiable for me at this point in my Amazon store. And so the fall continued, and I ended up working towards transitioning to new items that are gonna have a much lower return rate. That way I can continue with my business model the way that I wanted to. I also was working on, at this point, to not be leveraged as much, but I was working on paying off those cards and using the profits that I made throughout the rest of the year to fund my Amazon FBA store. Also at the same time, I set aside some money so that I could be sending in items that I could sell a lot of units of. I ended up realizing that the people who sold thousands and thousands of units almost always had a better time with account health. Their accounts could take more claims without getting shut down or without even going into the yellow or having any issues at all, versus the people who just sold 50, 100, 200, 300 units a month. And so by January, my store was running completely on cash, doing somewhere around $40,000 a month. Almost all of the items are new, and my account health is much, much better now. And so ending off 2022, I ended up doing $720K in sales and ended up doing $74,000 of profit after all of my write-offs, after all my returns, after all my software costs, after all of the costs that I had in my business. And so I was actually pretty happy with how the year went, considering that in 2021, I ended up doing more like $40,000 in profit, and the year before that was my very first year reselling. But there definitely is a lot of space that we can grow, and I made a ton of mistakes this year that I can learn from now. So there's a few things that I'm working on right now in order to implement in my Amazon FBA store. Number one, I am working towards doing $10,000 in profit every single month consistently. This will be after all costs and all returns, and this is also going to be with my inventory completely funded with cash instead of leveraged. So basically, I'm not using credit cards to fund my inventory. I'm using the actual profits that I have. That way, if Amazon were to shut everything down for some reason, I would still have savings outside of Amazon, and I wouldn't have a $70,000 Amex bill over my head. And so the inputs for this is I am planning on listing around $18,000 in potential profit every single month. I'm purposely overshooting this so that I have enough to pay for all of the costs that I have in my business, like all of my software, my virtual assistants, my prep center, and everything else that goes into running this Amazon FBA store. So the costs every single month are around $3,500, $18,000 in potential profit listed, and I purposely overshot it a little bit just in case prices come down. And so I'm very curious to see if I actually do this goal on a consistent basis, if I'm gonna need to up this, or if I'm gonna end up randomly making $12,000 profit in a month. And also, like I said before, these are gonna be completely new items instead of the used items that I was doing before. So most likely the returns are gonna be much, much lower than before. Last year, my returns were probably in the ballpark of 25 to 40%. And so since I'm wanting to do this completely in cash and I'm not wanting to leverage, I am working with a sourcing VA so that me and her can be finding the leads that are gonna give us a high ROI. That way we're not sending in like 15% ROIs. We're gonna be able to source those higher ROI items, just look a little bit harder and still be able to hit that potential profit goal. And so hopefully in the future, we'll be able to continue reinvesting. That way we can lower that ROI. But for now, we are spending quite a bit of time sourcing. And also for the time being, I'm putting a lot higher percentage of my time and focus into Amazon FBA rather than social media. I do still plan to stream and put out a video every single week, but I'm definitely going to be putting probably 90% of my effort into my Amazon FBA store because that's kind of where the money is coming from right now. I also really enjoy the live streams, so I'm definitely going to keep doing those. I'm also recording in late January, and so far this month I've actually been able to hit my potential profit goal, and I actually did it slightly earlier in the month. That way the items have a little bit more time to actually get to the Amazon FBA warehouses. So the point is that January efforts, if they're done more like the beginning of the month and the first half of the month, will end up resulting in the results in February. So February is going to be the month where we end up seeing, did I actually end up hitting this goal, or do I need to adjust the goal and raise it, or did I end up doing like 13K profit? So a recap of the recap. Last year was the first year where I leveraged super hard, and I ended up being able to have enough money for inventory to make enough profit to then reinvest those profits back into the business. And now I'm in a position where I can use that cash to run the Amazon FBA store with cash. I learned last year that selling used items without testing them, and selling especially used items without all of the components that a customer is going to want, is going to cause a lot of problems. I also learned that anything you can do to lower your return rate is definitely going to help you out in the long run, especially with your account health. In the beginning part of this year, 2023, I plan on sending in $18,000 of potential profit every single month, and hopefully that results in the output of $10,000 profit per month. All of these items are intended to sell in 2 to 4 weeks, ideally, unless I send in items that I think are going to be slower but higher ROI. So we will see how this goes. We'll see how we need to adjust this goal. But this was a 2022 recap and a business update of what I am working on right now. Hopefully you guys like the videos, and subscribe if you haven't already. Hope you guys have a great day, and take care.